I'd like to tell you about this new moon coming on the 20th of November, 2025 at 29 degrees of Scorpio, and it's going to be a new moon at 6:48 a.m. London time. I'm going to share how I'm processing it personally, and you can watch me art journaling it while I'm describing the energies that are at work. While what I'm saying is pretty personal, I hope it will talk to you. We could say that it's an applied new moon report. So to me, this new moon feels like stepping into a room inside myself that I've avoided for years. The new moon is sitting together, so it's conjunct with the sun and with Mercury retrograde and with Black Moon Lilith, and it's dragging up the thoughts that I buried, the feelings that I softened, and the truths that I learned to blur. It's happening in Scorpio, and Scorpio is a sign that brings the courage to walk straight into the darkness. Mercury retrograde pulls me back through the choices that I've made in the past when I was scared or when I felt alone. And Lilith brings forward the part of me that still aches and longs to be seen. So Mars and Pluto rule this moon together. Mars is bringing the heat and Pluto is bringing the depth. Mars is the traditional ruler, and it's in Sagittarius, and it squares the nodes and forces me to question everything. The relationships I clung to, the patterns I repeated, the moments where a childhood wound made the decision instead of the adult that I am now. And Pluto in Aquarius, Pluto is the modern ruler, is stripping me bare. It's removing the masks of things like, oh, everything's going to be fine, and it's showing me the unconscious material that I tend to shove into silence. Now there's a couple water grand trines happening, and they're moving like a tide through the whole chart. So we have the moon, the conjunction of the moon, Mercury retrograde, and Black Moon Lilith and the sun in Scorpio, and they're talking to Jupiter retrograde in Cancer and to Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. And there's also Venus in Scorpio that's joining the water party, also forming another grand trine with Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune. So this is where the emotional truths start to rise, where old beliefs are loosened and old fantasies crumble. Saturn and Neptune are asking a really hard question, which is what is real and what is imagined. What part of my story is built from longing or fear, and what part is a performance where I think I'm going to be healed? What part is the truth of who I am under all the masks that I wear? What part is the truth of who I am under the exhausting roles that I've kept on playing? So all this stuff is rising up for me. And then the moon is also opposed Uranus, which is at the final degrees of Taurus. And there I feel a shock, a crack, a split in the patterns that I've repeated without noticing. And I've noticed that my body reacts first. It's like a pull in my gut, a breath that's caught in my chest. And Uranus has been shaking the illusions that I've built. But Pluto is actually quite steadying and forces me to see the wound that I've been circling around for years, the old childhood aches, the wounds that I've kept on recreating in adult relationships, hoping that a different outcome would heal the original hurt. So the whole moon feels like an old painting where the darkness makes the light possible. The unconscious is becoming visible, and the shadow is like a doorway. And the truths that I've avoided are rising like a steam from a place that I thought was sealed shut, and it's impossible to contain. And it is so uncomfortable because, the unconscious is hidden for a reason. But this moon brings everything up, and I feel that I'm actually strong enough to face myself. And then there's Mars, who is pushing all my old roles to the surface, the caretaker, the peacemaker, the invisible one who learned early on that love must be earned. And then there's Jupiter and Chiron, who are exposing the sadness that lived beneath those roles, the fear of abandonment that's been woven into hypervigilance, the shame that my needs were too much, and the evidence that I was never seen, ever, never loved, and never chosen. But Uranus is my friend. Uranus breaks the routines that kept me small. And there's also Chiron that's pressing on the wound itself. And Saturn is pulling up the fear and the duties that I carried out because I was longing for a true connection. It's all here now, and my challenge is to see it without numbing, without running, and without performing. I'm really trying to be brave because I think that if I go through this Scorpio darkness, there's actually I can see some light at the end of the tunnel. And thank goodness for the water trines that I feel are holding me through the mess, and they're softening what's rising without taking the truth away. And they're bringing, the feelings in waves that I can handle. And then Jupiter retrograde is taking me back to my emotional inheritance, the patterns that I absorbed when I was very, very little. And then there's Saturn and Neptune that are dissolving the fairy tale that I used so that I could make myself feel safe. And Saturn and Neptune also show me where I confused hope with truth and where I confused longing with connection. And then there's Venus in Scorpio that is shining a light on how I love, how I've disappeared in relationships, how I mistook usefulness for worth, how the butterflies signaled something familiar, which was chaos from my childhood where I wasn't emotionally safe, not destiny. And that's the kind of honesty that is burning me inside of me, but is also healing me. And like I said before, Pluto is giving me the strength to stay present instead of completely crumbling under the weight of memories. Uranus is helping me crack the loop of repetition, and I feel that it's opening a path towards something real. And then there's the North Node and Venus that point me towards connection that does not require me to perform any role. It's like connection that isn't asking me to vanish or to pretend that I'm all that. And I'm realizing that actually every source of support lives inside me. There's awareness, there's presence, there's self-honesty, there's peace, and there's all the love that I've got. And there's also the quiet courage to sit with my own truth. It's not loud, it's not over the top. It's actually it's a really quiet feeling, that courage. Yeah, so this moon is asking for real inner work. It's the kind of work that happens when I stop looking for solutions outside of myself. So I'm saying no to distractions, no pretending, no softening the truth. I'm meant to feel the grief that shaped me and to notice where fantasy has held me captive, and to see the places where I chose emotionally unsafe patterns over my own authenticity. And also, it's helped me name the moments where I abandoned myself so that I would avoid conflict or loneliness or abandonment. But after all these truths that I've faced, there comes a choice. And I'm thinking of one small action that matches the person that I am now. Not the wounded child who learned to survive by pleasing, not the past self who tolerated too much, not the inflated self who performed to be loved, the real me, the one who feels everything and stays anyway, the courageous me, the one who knows that presence is safer than disappearance. And Mars is acting for actions rooted in reality, in the truth, because it's in Sagittarius. And Pluto is asking me for the courage to hold the raw material, the authentic material, without collapsing. And together, they're pulling me into congruence, into living without an armor, into looking at myself in the eye without flinching. This is what freedom feels like now. It's quiet, it's honest, it's born from truth rather than escape. It's a freedom that grows every time I refuse to abandon myself. And so I'm going to set my intention. I'm going to use this clip where I'm illustrating this Rumi quote. I think it's really appropriate. And I hope you have a beautifully transformative new moon. I know it's difficult, but I do believe that this moon is quite special and that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you for listening until the end, and goodbye.